Good evening, folks. This is Bill Breeden. Welcome to Constellation Tour number 21. Tonight we're going to talk about Vulpecula, the fox, in the northern celestial hemisphere. We have our Stellarium software set up for August the 18th, 2020 at about 9:30 p.m. And what you're seeing here is we're looking east into a moderately light polluted suburban sky. So how do we find the constellation Vulpecula? Well, let's look for the summer triangle. So we're going to look high up here in mid-August. And there it is. So we've got the bright star Vega, and then the star that's a little farther away from the other two, that's Altair. And the Deneb here is the tail of the swan of Cygnus. So that's the summer triangle. And the best way to find Vulpecula is start by looking for Altair, which is here, and you'll see the arrow of Sagitta here. We talked about that in a previous constellation tour. So, and then look for Albireo. Albireo is the head of the swan. Let's put our constellation lines up for a moment. And you'll see the head of the swan is right here. Vulpecula occupies the part of the sky between Albireo and Sagitta the arrow. It's this faint constellation here. And you'll see from a suburban sky that other than Albireo and the 4 stars of the arrow for Sagitta, which are already pretty faint, Vulpecula is even fainter. So it occupies this area of the sky right here. That's the fox right there. Vulpecula is best viewed during the same months as Cygnus and Sagitta, so it would be August through October, although it is visible for a month or two before and after that. So let's have a look at the boundaries. So here's Cygnus here, and here's Sagitta. We went over that before. Vulpecula occupies this area of sky right here between the arrow and Cygnus, between Sagitta and Cygnus. It's all this right here. And you can see within the boundaries of Vulpecula that there really aren't any stars to grab your eye, not even as bright as the arrow of Sagitta. So you're going to want to look for basically an empty area of sky between Albireo and the arrow of Sagitta. So before we proceed any farther, there are no real bright stars. There are no double stars of note in Vulpecula. So let's travel to a dark site right off the bat. And let's see if that helps us find our way to Vulpecula. Here's the summer triangle here. And if you look near Altair, you'll see the arrow of Sagitta right here. And here's Albireo here, the head of the swan. The swan is here, Cygnus. So here's Albireo, and here's the arrow. So this area between them, right here in this sort of dark patch of the Milky Way, that's Vulpecula, the fox. And actually all the way down to here. So Vulpecula is actually not, it's more of a medium-sized constellation. It's not exactly teeny tiny. So there is one Messier object within the border of Vulpecula, and that is M27, the Dumbbell Nebula. So let's have a look at M27 in the Finder. We've got our 6-degree field of view here, and Vulpecula does occupy a pretty area of the Milky Way. So as you pan around Vulpecula, you'll see a lot of really pretty pairings of stars. They're not necessarily double stars, but you've got one here. You've got a kind of a triple system going on over here. You've got some really small ones here. There's a lot to see. So here's the Dumbbell Nebula through binoculars or through a finder scope. It is located 860 light years from Earth. It shines at magnitude 7.4. This is a planetary nebula. So let's have a look at it through an eyepiece. Let's go with a 19 millimeter panoptic. And you've got some really nice background stars here from the Milky Way, but the Dumbbell Nebula is here, and it's a planetary nebula, so it's a dying star. Again, it's casting out its outer layers into space. And what you'll typically see through an amateur or backyard-sized telescope, you'll see kind of an hourglass shape. You won't see this color here that I'm showing you in Stellarium, but you will see an hourglass shape, and it'll be kind of a bluish gray color. So let's return to the naked eye sky, and we've got another object in Vulpecula that is unforgettable. It's one of the most popular asterisms in the sky. It's the coat hanger, also known as Brachy's cluster, or Colander 399. So how do we find the coat hanger? So I've done this before out at a dark site. It's one of my best memories of my early times as an amateur astronomer, just learning my way around the sky about 15 years ago. I remember pointing my telescope at Albireo first. So here's Deneb. So this is Cygnus the swan here. Here's the swan's body. Here's the wings. And Albireo is the head or the eye of the swan. Let's turn on our Telrad and let's go back out to naked eye here. Okay, so let's get Albireo in our sights here. And I remember that's how I started to find the coat hanger, and it was a little bit of a pan around evening. So I panned around with my telescope around the area of Albireo, more towards Altair, but not quite. So let's set this up for a 6-degree field, because that's what I would have done. And I started by looking at Albireo, and I said, let me just move towards Altair. And it didn't take long for the asterism to find itself within my field of view. I think the first time I might have missed it. But you see that pattern there, that bright pattern that forms the shape of a coat hanger? This long straight bar of stars in this hook shape? That's Colander 399, or Brachy's cluster, the coat hanger. So looking at it through an eyepiece, let's go with a low power here. You're not gonna really be able to, this is the hook here, and this is the straight bar, but you're only seeing part of it because it's such a large object in the sky. You really need, it was actually prettier through binoculars than it is through a medium or high power eyepiece. If you've got a really wide field of view eyepiece that can give you like here, the 2-degree ring would be perfect. So through a 2-degree eyepiece, that would be spectacular. So this concludes my review of Vulpecula, the fox. Good night and good seeing.